A lot of speculation, or what we've seen reported in the media, about capital flight out of China. We saw this really a lot in 2015 and 2016. A lot of money trying to get out of China. So it's a reasonable question if you're an investor sitting in the US. If all of these Chinese people want to get their money out, then why should I be wanting to buy Chinese assets and put my money in? So is capital flight a big issue in China? If so, why? Why not?
Well, it is an issue for sure, and it is actually, to some extent, this capital exit or capital movements offshore has been government directed. If we think about it, China investment overseas is a tiny part of its total capital stock, whereas if you look at the Western countries, their investments offshore are a much bigger part of their total capital stock. So China's been lagging behind in its ownership of capital stock offshore. Secondly, the government has actually been encouraging, up until recently, was encouraging many of the big organizations in China to go forth and multiply, go out and diversify, buy offshore assets. And that way you diversify your risk as a business, and secondly, you learn a great deal about how business works and how other countries do things. And Chinese companies and organizations really need to do that. So at some point, that flow of capital got a little bit too large. So there was a need or a desire to pull back on that capital outflow to some extent. We saw the reserves of China shrink from about $4 trillion US down to just under $3 trillion. They've actually started to pick back up again as the government has implemented more capital controls in the last six to 9 months. So in a way, the government is encouraging offshore capital in some respects, but if it gets too fast, it wants to step its foot on the brake. It wants to turn the red light on the traffic light, so to speak. So I think you're going to expect to see this on, off kind of pattern in lots of things in China, but certainly in capital flows. Also, if you think about it, a lot of people in China have never been able to invest offshore. So the ability to take a bit of money and have an offshore investment and insurance policy, whether it be in stocks, whether it be in owning a business, whether it be owning real estate in America or Australia or Britain or wherever, a lot of people see that as a genuine diversification and also an insurance policy against the risk in their own economy. So a perfectly normal thing to do.